I'm Hillary Hendershot, your host, and this is Profit Boss Radio, episode 115. Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth mastermind. Profit Boss is also a community and a movement for women who are ready to take control of their money, break the glass ceiling, and give ourselves permission to finally have enough. Want the secrets of wealth to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hillary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real women who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. Let's do this, ladies. Hey, this is Hillary. I'm just popping in here with a few housekeeping items. I'm going to play this announcement on episodes 114 through 116. First, if you haven't seen my post in the private Facebook group, unfortunately, due to some changes that Facebook decided to make, and those changes not jiving with the regulations that are put upon me as a financial advisor, I did have to what's called archive that group. So you can still see it if you were in part of the group. It was always a private group. So if you were a member, you can still see it, but you can't post anymore or make any changes. Okay. So I'm sorry about that. And, but I'm excited for moving onward and upward. And I think that we have created some new ways to engage and interact. I would really like to play your voices on the show. So I would love for you to ask your Ask Hillary questions by using the recorder, the voice recorder on your phone, and sending those questions to media@hillaryhendershot.com and put the subject line, in the subject line, use the hashtag Ask Hillary. So that's how you can ask your Ask Hillary questions. We're getting those answered on the show. I would love to hear from you that way. So don't be shy. If you don't want to include your name in the recording, that's cool. Just record it in your own voice, send it over, and we'll play it on the show, and then I'll answer it. And the other thing is that I want to let you know that season 2 of Profit Boss Radio is going to be wrapping up. Episode 116 is the last episode in season 2, and then we'll take the summer off, and then I'll come back in September. So stay subscribed. Keep me right there on your podcast player. I won't take up any time or space while I'm out. If you are a newer listener, there's 116 other episodes for you to catch up on. So this is a chance for you to make up lost time. We've got some really exciting things planned for season 3 of Profit Boss Radio. So I'm excited to come back, improve some of the things that are working, add some new things that I think are going to increase engagement and the value of the show to you. And you should know that we're up leveling. That, I think as a group, as a community, we are moving onward. We're getting better and better at managing our money. And so some of the topics in season 3 are going to be more sophisticated, more advanced, more of your traditional financial planning topics. Definitely learning about the things that impact you, your finances, your wealth, and your happiness. That's it for announcements, and on to the show. Hello, Profit Boss. I am excited to welcome to the show Travis Hornsby. Travis founded Student Loan Planner after helping his surgeon wife figure out her 6-figure med school debt, and he realized there was a huge unmet need in this area. And I can attest to that. I get questions on this topic all the time. So I'm really happy to be able to be covering this subject today. Travis used to be a bond trader in a former life. He is a chartered financial analyst, so he's rock solid smart. He's a finance guy, but now he loves saving professionals money through creating customized student loan strategies for the top 2% most indebted Americans. Travis also has something very special for you. If you go to studentloanplanner.com/refi-quiz, that tool, you can input the technicals of your own student loan situation, and it will tell you A, whether Travis thinks that you should consider refinancing, and B, whether you can get a cashback bonus for doing so. So that's pretty cool. Also, if you have specific questions, and I'll give this email address again at the end of the interview, but you can email Travis personally at travis@studentloanplanner.com. It's Travis Hornsby. Welcome to Profit Boss Radio.
Thanks. Great to be on, Hillary.
Yeah. Student loans are a huge problem.
A massive one. And it's one that particularly affects professional women.
Yeah.
So I think I saw some headline the other day that said that women owe over 900 billion of the 1.5 trillion student loans out there. So this is a massive issue that's probably affecting a lot of your listeners.
Wow, because it's like schooling is something you can buy. I mean, some schools are competitive to get into, but everyone wants to differentiate themselves, right? I can't tell you how many people I feel like I went and did an MBA. I started in 2009. And how many people in my program I feel just were not happy with their career progress. And so thought that getting this advanced degree would give them what they wanted in terms of respect, credibility. And it's a if you pay full price, it's a $80,000 MBA, right? And you can finance the whole thing. No credit check.
Yeah, they're not gonna make you think about it too long.
Exactly. What message do you wish you could give to, high school students looking at undergraduate college, or maybe college graduates looking at doing a master's degree? What would you have them do differently?
I would just tell them, go to the cheapest place you possibly can.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think that most of the people that are contacting me when they already have the big student loans, and like, if I could go back to my early 20s, there's a lot of things I changed about my life, but I can't. Yeah. And so, now we're in this situation. What do we do about it? But if I could go back and catch that person and they're even like, 18, 19 or, 22, 23, I would say, it's okay to take some time just to pause in your life and figure out, is this the right thing for me? Do I really want to be doing this? Because everybody has this mentality that you just got to go to the next phase of your career, your life, whatever, and you don't stop and think. So, if you get into a flagship state university, that's probably going to be a better decision financially than going to almost any private school out there, maybe with the exception of one of the top Ivy League schools, right?
Right.
And so many people, they'll go to maybe a private liberal arts college and they'll come out with some big debt from undergrad, but that's not where I'm seeing most of the real carnage. Most of that's happening in grad school now because of the way the student loan system works in the United States. Mm-hmm. The undergrad system caps the max borrowing, where you can't borrow any more than a certain amount, and then any additional amount gets actually put onto your parents. Oh. So there's a lot of parents out there that have really massive loans called the Parent Plus loan system. They'll have maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars on that from sending kids to private school, but the kids themselves won't actually have it. So the grad school system is where the loan balances really explode, because those you actually take out in your own name. And then for grad school, the student loan system in the U.S. has no limit to the cap on what you can borrow. So that means that you can borrow up to the cost of attendance, including living expenses.
Wow.
If I see people coming out of schools from dental school in NYU to, law schools in Southern California, that owe maybe $300,000 to $600,000 in student loans regularly.
Oh my goodness! What's the most you've ever seen?
1.1 million.
No.
Yeah. With
what
a single
school
person.
Was that?
It was a combination of NYU Dental School with some expensive dental residencies. So for dentists, when they go to residency training to specialize, maybe they're going to become an orthodontist, they usually have to pay money to become a resident rather than receive money like physicians do. So this person was somebody who went to undergrad dental school and specialty programs in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and did not, probably have a super high level of financial literacy, and came out with that amount of debt. And I've actually had multiple people that have had about that level of debt. There's about 100 of those people in the country because the Wall Street Journal just did a big feature story about it. And I've probably had maybe 3 of them as clients.
Incredible. Imagine how long it's going to take to pay that debt off. And I think my experience is most of the people they sort of get themselves into that mess without ever really doing the math on what the full price tag is.
Yes. It's true. It's not even just the price tag. It's also the opportunity cost. And so many people don't even think about that. They think, well, I'm going to go to school and it's going to cost me $100,000 for 3 years. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's going to cost you $100,000 for those 3 years. Plus, it's going to cost you the rent and living expenses you're going to borrow. Plus, it's going to cost you the lost salary from those 3 years of not working.
Right.
And so when you add that in together, school could easily be a $250,000 decision, even with tuition only being $100,000. And a lot of times people don't even think about that, where, hey, you could have $100,000 in your 401k and no debt, at your 30th birthday, instead of starting off from kind of ground zero and maybe starting out with a little slightly higher salary.
Yes, and thank you for talking about opportunity cost. That's a term I use on the show a lot. I think it's really important that people understand that you have to weigh trade-offs. So can we talk about your wife a little bit?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. So did you meet her before med school, during, or after?
After. So she's a super genius compared to me. And so I can back this up because she started med school at 18, which is crazy. She got into this like special kind of accelerated program, and she started med school at 18, and then she went through 4 years of residency OBGYN in New York City and made a lot of the stressed out big city professional mistakes that a lot of people make.
Like what? Like what? What do you mean?
Well, just ordering takeout like for every single meal.
Wow.
She's so stressed out, and then when she does, she's working so many hours in the hospital. She finally gets some time to go out with friends, and she's going to go out, and because she only has maybe 5 hours of free time that whole week, hanging out with friends, she's going to go to the nice bar and have a really nice cocktail rather than being able to take advantage of happy hour and walking out of there with a $10 bar tab instead of maybe a $40 bar tab, right? And so so she definitely had a really hard time putting money away when she was in New York City, and then this is before I knew her, and then she took a fellowship training position to specialize in Philadelphia, and she specialized at UPenn, and I was doing my bond trading gig there, and we met at church. So that's kind of how like the origin story of our relationship.
All right. So here you are, this fiscally conservative bond trader, and you meet this amazingly smart, she's a surgeon or a surgeon in training at the time.
Right.
And at what point did she tell you about all of her debt?
Well, so, and my wife's name is Christine, and by the way, and so Christine, she's not the kind of person that really cares about finances or money. and I say that lovingly because she just has bigger things to worry about, life and death, trying to take care of her patients. That's what she cares about. She would be fine if she was making, probably half the salary that she is, and she'd probably love it if she's making double, but she's not the kind of person that's important to her. And so we had the discussion because I guess it was just something that I was really interested in discussing because we were starting to date more seriously, and I was thinking pretty long term about the relationship and where it could go. And so I thought, okay, well, every financial expert tells you you're supposed to have the money conversation, so let's have the money conversation. And I asked, and she just said, okay, well, by the way, I have this much in, a Roth IRA, just a little bit. And then by the way, I have 6 figures in med school debt. and I was like, whoa, because the popular perception, if you don't have loved ones, in the sort of medical world, is that doctors are rich, right? They make so much money. Maybe they have a little bit of student debt because med school is expensive, but they pay it off real fast. And that's kind of not really the case like it used to be. And well,
so they certainly don't make much money at all until they get out of their residency, right? And they can be in that for 2 decades.
Well, yeah, but and even now you're seeing the transition to employment at hospital systems instead of people owning their own practices. And so, obviously the hospital is the one kind of capturing those extra profits from that switch from private practice to hospital-based employment. And so overall, I think physicians' incomes are going down in general. And, so you're facing this kind of dual whammy from physician incomes not being as hot as they used to be, I think, to also the increased cost of school. And and the fact that, now to specialize, you might need to spend, almost 5 to 10 years, of your life after medical school to even make the money where you finally feel like you've arrived. And it's super tough for professionals. And I'm sure this is true really for any professional field these days.
It is tough. And by the way, I heard what you said about how your wife, Christine, maybe isn't focused on money. Her attention isn't on that. And I find that to be relatively common in couples. Often one person cares about the money a lot more than the other person. And I think if you as a couple allow specialization, it can work. So she's lucky she has you to pay attention.
It's funny because she'll have like spurts where she'll be interested in it. So she'll say something like, "Hey Travis, I feel like I spent too much money on Amazon and buying clothes online this month. Can you come up with a budget that I can look at and decide if I agree with, so that we can have some guidelines for how much I'm supposed to spend in this area?" And it's funny, but she loves having her own money, and that's she deserves it. She's working her tail off. And it's just something that I'm the super long-term thinker, but I'm pretty bad at living in the present. And so, we kind of balance each other out that way, because she's the one that loves to enjoy the present and doesn't tend to think quite as much about the long-term future.
That sounds like a good yin yang. Although I find it hard to believe that someone who spent more than a decade in college doesn't have a long-term view. But I see what you're saying.
Okay. Well, she does about her career, that's for sure.
Exactly. So I imagine you took a look at some point, she sort of passed the manila folder across the desk to you and said, "Here it is." And you, being a financial technical person, dug in, looked at, there are probably different loans at different rates. Tell me a little bit about your process and how you figured out what you're now doing.
Well, I built an Excel calculator to help her figure it out. And I,
of course you did.
Yeah. Well, that's just how I think. So I built that out, and we modeled public service loan forgiveness. We modeled different income-based repayment options. We modeled refinancing, and we found that probably the refinancing option was about the same cost as going for any kind of loan forgiveness strategy, because she had made some mistakes with managing her student loans that if she had not made those, she actually could have saved probably about $70,000. And when I realized that,
late payments?
Well, so the way the PSLF program works is you pay for 10 years, and then at the end that balance is forgiven tax-free. Well, she was in training for 7 years before becoming an attending, and the problem is that she made a consolidation mistake at the end of her residency that cost her entire residency's worth of years of credit towards this program. So she lost 4 years of credit that way. And then she had some problems with her loan servicer accurately counting her time in fellowship too. So by the time the dust settled, basically she had loans that in some cases had zero credit for loan forgiveness on them, despite her being so close to receiving it. If she just worked 3 more years as an attending at an academic hospital, she could have had the remaining balance of her loans forgiven. And this could have happened if she had only had a better approach to managing her loans in residency. But the issue with that is just she didn't have the time, and she wasn't super interested in looking at that area of her life. Wow. And I thought, wow, here's a case where, my wife, who's sacrificed so much just to get where she is today, could have saved so much more money on something that she's not super interested in, but would love for somebody to just figure out for her. And then she was the one that actually came up with the idea of doing this, making student loan plans for people, because she said, "Travis, our friend over at Penn's vet school said that she's graduating with almost $400,000 in student loans. You really need to just have this, one-time flat fee student loan consulting thing and just make a plan for her and see how it goes. Use the spreadsheet that you made for me and use it for her and see what it feels like." And so I did that. Look at that.
She's a doctor and an entrepreneur.
She is, yeah. So she says, "Travis, go take risks." and so yeah, but she's again, that just creative, super smart side of her brain, giving me my ideas, and so I did that, and just kind of then that friend referred me to other folks, and then I took that spreadsheet and I wrote an article about it and shared it online, and it got picked up by Business Insider, ended up on the front page of Yahoo. And then before I knew it, I had dozens and dozens of people contacting me, even though I wasn't really intentional about it, asking me for help with their student loans.
Right.
And then I just decided to blog a lot more about it, and people started recognizing that I was offering something that was compelling with my calculator, just my expertise in the area. And then now we've had 1,000 clients and advised about $300 million in student debt. So, and now it's more than just me. So, yeah, it's been quite the journey. But the one thing that I love is just making that big transformation for people in this narrow area of student debt that's so painful that so few people understand. And that's all we try to fix.
Well, it's a great story, you having done what you did just because it's how your brain thinks for your wife and for your family, and then it turning out to be something that is just so needed. So let me see if I can download some of your best lessons learned, and then we'll refer people who need what you do to you. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make when they take out student loans?
When you take out student loans, you have to think about what the future holds. So if you're going to go for a loan forgiveness program, make sure all of your debt's federal. Don't take out any private debt. If you know that you're going to owe way more than 2 times your income, or you're going for a public service loan forgiveness plan, you don't want to take any debt that's not going to be on the federal system, because it's not going to be eligible for forgiveness. On the flip side, if you're going to owe a very manageable amount of student debt and you're taking out a bunch of loans on the Grad Plus program, you're paying over a 4% origination fee to the government, and you're paying 7% interest or more, and it's going to just accrue on you during the entire school period. So goodness sakes, if you could be a little bit more frugal, and you're going to have to pay your loans back one day when you graduate, just be a little bit more frugal, live with roommates, try to shave off that extra dollar of expense while you're in school, because it's costing you an astronomical sum because of all these super high fees and all this super high interest that the government's charging.
Do you have any kind of multiple or rule of thumb that you think of when it comes to, hey, Travis, I borrowed money when I was 20 to go to UCLA and now I'm 30 or 35. Do you think in your mind, do you say, wow, for every dollar you borrowed, you're paying back 5 or something like that?
Well, I mean, the way I tend to think about it more is just basically on debt to income ratio. If you think that you're going to graduate and you're going to owe more than 2 times your income and you're going to owe that for forever, then you need to have a really good plan set up to handle your loans with loan forgiveness, and making sure you've got the right approach. And you can do the not-for-profit or government route, which is tax-free, or you can go the private sector route, which is 20 to 25 years, and you pay based on your income, and at the end you owe taxes on your forgiven balance because it's taxed as income, the forgiven balance. Yeah. So those are the 2 paths for forgiveness. And then the other path, because the government charges artificially high interest rates, if you know that you're trying to pay your loans back in less than 10 years, you should think about refinancing. So you basically take your loans, convert them to loans with a private lender, but the lender is looking at you from a credit risk perspective. And so if you're, a highly paid professional and you're making, $100,000 or something, you have $100,000 in debt, then you probably qualify for like a 4.5%, 5%, 5.5% interest rate instead of 6, 7, or 8%. So that saves you lots of money, thousands of dollars on the loan payback, and gets you out of debt faster, where more of your money is going to the principal instead of the interest.
So who are the players here in terms of it's the schools and the government giving out the loans originally, and then who's offering to consolidate them at lower interest rates?
Well, so those are private lenders, and there's some that are startups, that are newer companies that connect lenders with investors that want to invest in this debt because they look at government bonds yielding 3%, and they're like, hey, if I could give 5% to a professional who I know is not going to default, that's an extra 2% yield, right? So that's a great investment. And the government's just charging the same price to everybody, and that is really great for people that couldn't get a refinancing done that would make sense, and it's not great for people who are making good money and paying their loans back. So there's this huge inefficiency in the marketplace that can be solved. And so when you apply, you can apply with these different places. Probably a lot of your listeners will have gotten stuff in the mail from these different companies and banks that'll refinance. But you want to shop around, because you could get a lower interest rate by doing that, and you might get a cashback bonus for doing that. On my site, I've got a bunch of different lenders listed where you can get $300 to $500 if you find a lower interest rate. And there's other places out there that might offer, professional discounts for your professional society. I mean, there's just a lot to know to try to get a good deal, and you're not going to get the best deal if you just answer whatever mailing somebody sent you. And you also want to make sure you don't refinance if you shouldn't. If you owe $300,000 but you have $100,000 of income, and let's say that your husband's a stay-at-home dad or something like that, maybe he has no student debt, maybe he does. Well, then you shouldn't pay back your loans because you'd have to sacrifice like 40% of your take-home pay for 10 years. And the better option would be to go for something like pay as you earn for 20 years, save up some money along the way for the tax bomb that you'll owe. And at the end of the 20 years, maybe you only paid $100,000 and then you have the tax bomb and maybe you have to pay, $150,000 for a tax bomb. But, $250,000 of payment stretched over 20 years is a heck of a lot better than $300,000, paying back with all the principal plus the interest, right? So it really does depend on like the individual. And I'll just say that like you want to have a clear plan. A lot of people are kind of flailing about for a plan where they'll throw an extra $100 at a loan, or they'll pay the highest interest rate loan first, or they'll do these things that they hear in the media are good ideas. But student loans are just not like any other kind of debt. They're just all these government programs, all these government rules and loopholes. And it's a lot more like the tax code, where if you know the tricks, you can save a bunch of money, than something like credit cards, where it's like, don't be in credit card debt, pay it off as fast as possible. It's more simple in that case.
So I know that now you said that there are tricks and loopholes. Everyone's ears are pricked up. So this, the refi quiz at studentloanplanner.com/refi-quiz, is that going to let people know if they can take advantage of any of these loopholes and tricks? Is your site educating people about the loopholes and tricks? How can people get enough information without spending a year researching it?
Sure. I mean, so the refi quiz is just intended to be a free thing that people can just use and try out to see if that, I would think that a specific lender might be able to help them the best. And it'll also tell them if I think that they probably should not refinance, or if they should go for the public service loan forgiveness program. But we have a ton of free educational content if people have the time to sort through it all. We have content probably published 3 times a week on average, with all kinds of different scenarios. And we've probably got over 100 articles of different cases of, different professions and how they can take advantage of all these loopholes. So you could definitely take that approach and search by the category and find loan articles about your specific profession, or you could hire us and do the one-time consult, and we'll find the exact plan for you, and not just give you the generic advice that we give to everyone, because you have to give generic advice when you're giving it to a large group of people, right?
Yes, yes, I know.
but yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is not necessarily doing something that makes us money. That's not the point. The point is for you to get a good plan so that you'll save tons of money and not be in debt and not be so worried and stressed out. That's the point. So make a clear strategy. And so if you want to do it yourself, that's fine. Just know exactly why you're doing it the way you're doing it, rather than just like pretending it'll go away. Because I wish it would go away, but like I've got bad news, it's not going to. And you can approach it, you can fix it, you can do so many things with these loan forgiveness strategies. It's awesome. Like today I was talking with a physician assistant, and she wants to spend more time with her kids, and she was thinking that she wouldn't be able to. Well, actually, she can set up her budget in such a way and her loan repayment in such a way that she can actually afford to do that, even though she has $300,000 of loans from PA school. So, yeah. And then on the flip side, there'll be, a female dentist with 200,000 of income, but 400,000 of student loans. And she thinks that she can never start a family. And, her husband's maybe making 20, 30,000, and she's so stressed out. And it's like, well, actually, you do have options. You can do this plan that gets you subsidized interest while you're figuring out what you want to do so the balance grows more slowly. Or you can refinance it and have this kind of a payment that you can probably manage. Or you can set your finances up where you're maximizing retirement accounts, you're getting yourself set up in a partnership with somebody for a dental practice, and you're going to have plenty of cash flow to afford $2,000 a month daycare, so that because your husband still enjoys working and doesn't want to stay home with the kid. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do.
And you're able to give them these ABC scenarios in the consultation?
Yes. So, I mean, like, we'll always give different paths that they can take and just have discussion over what's important to them and their life and their goals, personal goals, career goals, those kind of things, because each loan strategy is different. Sometimes people want to rush to the exit and they want to have no debt as fast as possible. So we'll tell somebody how to do that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're more comfortable with stretching the loan loans out over a longer period of time, especially if it means that they're able to afford that house that they want, or they're able to, have, a family situation that they like, or they're able to grow in their career the way they want to.
It's a trade-off between being debt-free and having quality of life now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a trade-off that we talk about to folks. One thing that I'll tell people that I've seen after doing 1,000 consults is I've never seen somebody that's super stressed about money where it's not in some way related to a house or a car decision in some way.
A car, really?
Yeah, go figure, right? So, it's just so many people kind of get tricked with the low interest rate, and they think that they're getting this great deal. But what they're really doing is creating this huge fixed expense in their monthly budget that requires them to work in such a way that they can afford it without being stressed.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck in this cycle. Well, maybe they'll have 2 cars, right? And maybe they'll have a big house because they feel like they're never going to be able to afford a house. So they buy one right now, and they want to buy their forever house. They stretch in their budget, but then that they're stressed, and they maybe don't spend enough time, in free time just for themselves or family, or maybe they're not taking as many vacations as they'd like. So that's just a real quick tip that I think applies universally. Just if you're unhappy with the way things are in your life and you feel financially insecure, look at your house or what kind of mortgage or rent you have, and look at your car payment and try to reduce one of the two or both of those, and it'll go a long way to making you less anxious.
Yes, I teach and promote a system of financial automation where we categorize things based on when you decided to spend them. So your monthly obligations or overhead gets put in this category called yesterday's promises. And and I always say this, if you have stress and anxiety, if you don't have freedom and flexibility in your daily life, it's because your yesterday's promises number is too high. And that's car payment, rent payment, mortgage, debt service, right? You have to find a way to get that particular monkey off your back, or at least downsized, so that you can have a life now. Human connection. We all want to feel like we have a place to belong, right? When it comes to investing your money, it may feel like there isn't a place for you. Maybe you met a financial advisor who just wanted to sell you another product. They didn't listen. They didn't get to know you. There's been no place for you as an investor until now. My team and I launched Ignite Investing to give our Profit Boss listeners a place to belong. This is your place to start finally building your wealth with people who actually care about you. If you have $25,000 saved, you can start actively building your wealth now with Ignite Investing. Most importantly, you get human connection from real-life advisors. Me and my team, not some call center or robo-advisor where they get to know you from the previous call notes on their computer screen. We want to have a real relationship with you. We want you to feel comfortable talking to us, to be connected to your advisor so you can know you matter. We want to know your financial goals, listen to your questions, hear your concerns, and help create a customized plan with you for your financial future. So if you're tired of being just another number, there's a place for you with Ignite Investing. Visit igniteinvesting.com to learn more and see if Ignite Investing is right for you. That's igniteinvesting.com. And when you're ready, click on Get Started today. So let's talk about, are there certain professions that when you hear, for example, that someone's a dentist or a PA or they're a lawyer, that their loans are more consolidatable, or does it just have to do with the interest rate? What makes someone a likely candidate for consolidation?
Well, so consolidation is really only helpful to speed up payment on somebody who's got an extended grace period. And it's very helpful for people that need to get old loans qualifying for loan forgiveness programs that didn't exist a couple years ago. And then it's also helpful for folks who are they like the idea of having a single loan to keep track of instead of like 20. Mm-hmm. And so it is helpful, but it's not the same thing as having a strategy. So there's a bunch of kind of scammy, sketchy type of places that will like promise like student loan forgiveness if you call this number and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll help you consolidate your loans, which you can do for free by calling like a phone number that I give to people. But that doesn't solve anything. That just gets your loans like more organized, and that's great, but it's not the same thing as actually having an idea of what you're going to do with it. And so the consolidation, I tend to use that word for loans that you're keeping with the federal government and you're consolidating them with the government. And then refinancing, I like to use as the process of taking your loans out of the government system or even from another private lender and creating a new loan with the private lender that has a lower interest cost.
I got it. Okay. So consolidating is just making many loans into one loan, whereas refinancing is where you actually get the lower interest rates.
Yeah, and the consolidating, I specifically use that term for just the federal system, like keeping your loans with the federal system, because sometimes people will talk about consolidating and they'll kind of mix it up and talk about refinancing. And so, consolidating you can do with the government, you can keep it with the government. Refinancing, you're kind of moving it to a new private lender and you're going to get a better interest cost. And that's really the only reason you would refinance in the first place.
Okay. So circling back to the occupation profession, are there certain occupations where that's more prevalent or more likely, or does it just have to do with the size and interest rate of the loans?
It's really the size of the interest rate of the loan. I would say physicians tend to consolidate their loans more often because they're doing that so they can qualify for the public service loan forgiveness program more easily. But pretty much anybody that's graduating from a grad school program should probably consolidate their loans with the federal government as soon as they graduate. Mm-hmm. It just speeds up the repayment process a little bit. It makes it more organized, and it's generally a helpful thing to do. The exceptions are people who need to refinance their loans instead and just hurry up and start paying at a lower interest rate, and then you can just refinance instead. And so I would say, I guess it kind of depends on the profession. Like it's kind of two different kinds of people in the same profession. Like you might have a corporate lawyer that's making a bunch of money that should refinance, but then you might have like a family law small firm lawyer that owes $250,000 and makes $60,000 a year, and she needs to consolidate.
Right.
And so it's just a kind of a tale of two jobs in the same profession that kind of drives that.
Well, this is really interesting. And I mean, I always thought I guess knee jerk thought the answer to whether you should refi your loans is a function of, can you get a lower interest rate, period. But what I'm learning is that there are certain people who actually shouldn't, and that maybe these people don't have finance or technical mathematical careers or backgrounds. And I have to imagine there's a lot of people make mistakes.
Tons of mistakes. So like the average mistake that we fix, because we're projecting this over 20 to 25 years, but the average mistake is about $60,000.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Because say you pick the wrong repayment program, you try to pay your loans inefficiently, spread that out over 20 years with a 7% or 8% interest rate, and it's just super easy to make a mistake. And so sometimes like it's on the low end, maybe we save somebody $10,000 because they're refinancing rather small amount. And, people don't have to pay me anything to do that. They can just use our studentloanplanner.com website to do that. If it's obvious that you should refinance, just go use our links. If you're finding the best rate there, you get a cashback bonus and you'll save money. But if you're really unsure about what to do and you're kind of really stressed and you just feel like you need a plan and you're just kind of analysis paralysis with your student loans, and that's like where the student loan plan is really helpful. But yeah, I can't stress that enough. Is like, you think that you know all the rules and the tricks, but the problem is that it's so complicated. There's a lot of things that you just don't know that you don't know.
Yeah, I bet. It sounds like you could get yourself really tangled up in a briar patch there. Good to have someone like you to give good consult. And from something you said earlier about talking with this maybe hypothetical, I think she was a physician's assistant in your example, you were talking about, no, you actually can, make these lifestyle choices. Are you in this consultation? Are you talking with people about how they can think about balancing repayment of loans with the rest of the expenses in their lives?
I do to a certain extent. I mean, there's a deep level of work that, you do as a financial planner that's really valuable that somebody, should have like ongoing accountability and help with. Right. So, but we'll give somebody some action steps, like, for example, this person was kind of unsure about, their big car payment and, probably could sell it for about what it's worth. So that's easy, sell your car, buy a cheaper car and get out of your credit card debt, with the payments you freed up, and get to having an emergency fund, at least $10,000, and I'll get hooray, now you have options.
Yeah.
And so this person was just kind of looking for the first step, like it was just so overwhelming just to be doing all these hours and, having a family and raising kids and trying to figure out all the issues surrounding childcare. And so it was just very stressful. And, if you're a financial person, maybe a lot of these things would click more, and make more sense. But if you're a professional in an area that's not really related to finance, kind of like my wife, right? She's incredibly intelligent, but they don't really have any of these required courses that you have to go to become a physician to make sure you don't make mistakes with your personal finances.
Yeah.
So just, it's kind of like anything, outsource the things you don't enjoy so you can focus on the things that you do.
It is kind of like anything. Okay. A last question. If someone is late on payments for their student loan, does that impact FICO score? Even though in my experience is they didn't even check my credit when I took out loans for my MBA.
Yeah, I think it will affect you if it's more than, if it's more than 90 days late, they report it. I'd have to double check that. But there is a certain threshold that if you're late more than a certain number of days, then they'll report that to the agencies and that'll affect your credit. All so right. It's not a good thing to have your student loans affect your credit. If you make sure you make payments or you're on some sort of approved option, like an income driven option or even forbearance, which I don't suggest, but it's better than defaulting or being delinquent, then you're going to protect your credit score, which is going to make sure that you get good interest rates on everything else in your life, from a mortgage to a credit card to a car loan. And if you're messing up your credit score with the student loans, that could cause a way bigger downstream impact than just that one thing.
Right.
You can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars extra in interest over 20 years because of just messing up your student loan payment and being delinquent or defaulting on your student debt when you're young. So just don't do that. Just make sure, any kind of approved, payment or forbearance is better than defaulting. So please, please, please do not default in your student debt. It is the most collectible kind of student or of debt in existence. You will not get away from it that way.
Yeah, you can't default, right? It stays with you.
No, the settlements are usually 95 to 97 cents on the dollar for people that drag out the debt for years and years and destroy their credit.
Oh my.
And they have 16% collection fees they can assess. It's just totally not worth it. It's not like credit card debt where you can just declare bankruptcy and walk away from it.
Wow. All right. So those of you with student loans, get serious. Take it seriously. If you're interested in this conversation, Travis has got a refi quiz for you at his site. I mentioned it before. It's studentloanplanner.com/refi-quiz. And Travis, that tool is going to allow people to know whether they should refinance and if they can get a cashback bonus, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. And you can also email Travis at studentloanplanner.com. So cool. I don't even have to spell anything in there because it's all just like it sounds. Travis at studentloanplanner.com. Travis, thanks for joining us on Profit Boss Radio and adding your expertise. It's a very popular and valuable topic. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Hillary.
Today's episode of Profit Boss Radio was brought to you by Ignite Investing. If it's time to release all that financial anxiety and make sure you're on the right path to financial success by hiring a comprehensive wealth management team, and you have between $25,000 and $499,000 to invest, go to igniteinvesting.com now and click Get Started today. For today's show notes, visit hillaryhendershot.com. And if you love Profit Boss Radio, please share the show with your friends and, of course, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Until next time, I wish you much prosperity.